is very cool 16L6 Masco PA head. It says fan in here because late in Masco's run, they were bought by another company called Fanon Masco. But this one is basically made exactly the same as the older ones. This would basically be what's normally called an Audiosphere 8, I think. Yes. So it runs 16L6, and it's not just an antique thing that you have to drive around at 30 miles an hour. I mean, this, number one, you could turn this on and leave it on for a year, and it would just sit there and run, right? It's not temperamental or fussy. It's not hard on tubes. And if you plug any kind of instrument into it, it's going to sound great. And I can also tell you on this one, the tone controls on these little PAs pretty limited. You know, they don't offer a super wide range. Basically, they just roll off some highs, probably so your scratchy records wouldn't go when you were playing them. They also had a line level input that not everybody uses. So what I did on this one was I gave it the stock tone control, which is on this knob, which rolls off highs. But this tone control, this is the one that's used in all the classic Fender Tweed amps, like Harvards and Tweed Deluxes and stuff. And when you have it in the middle, it's real neutral. But if you turn it to the right, it adds highs. It boosts highs like crazy. And if you turn it to the left, it rolls off highs. So the combination of these two things gives us a wider range of tone. Also, harp players don't want all that high end. First thing they usually do is turn the tone control down as bassy as they can get it. But guitar players want to have a crispier, brighter sound. This thing will work for both. If you turn this stock tone control down and you keep this one down, it sounds like I made it for harp. But if you turn this tone control bright and you turn this tone control bright, then it would twang like crazy, and any guitar player would say, heck yeah. When I first started doing little tiny ones like this, one of the coolest things to me about them was you could take this, if you're a pro, and you could put this in a suitcase, and you could ask for a reissue deluxe reverb or anything, any kind of speaker, and you plug this into it and you'd have your sound. And it's pretty doggone small. So it even has this little booster amp jack that's some kind of little line out. They were pretty sophisticated back then. And even though this stuff was sort of inexpensive in its way, it was just designed so sturdily and so heavy duty.
It's a 1961.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
Sounds
But I think Fanon Masco engine Fanon 59 to 60 somewhere around there.
So even if you had just a a Blues Junior, if you turn this thing and hooked it up to the speaker and you're Blues Junior, you just go, whoa, oh no. There's just something about the classic simple circuits, they just sound really good. Here's another interesting thing people don't always know. You'll see that this says 4, 8, and 16 ohms on it. A good amp like this or a Fender, 100% mismatch up or down, you can't even tell. It doesn't hurt it at all. This particular amp had 4 ohm and 8 ohm, but the only way to access it was on this goofy plug thing here, which we don't want to have to mess with stuff like that. It makes it something to break. So I'm sure I hardwired this thing up to 8 ohms, but it would be fine with a 2 ohm or a 4 ohm cabinet like 212s, an 8 ohm cabinet, or even a 16 ohm cabinet like an old JBL 15-inch 16 ohm, something like that. It would drive all of those. So I just think this kind of stuff is pretty doggone versatile, and it's not just some old piece of junk that only old vintage freaks would want. If you gave a 10-year-old kid who'd been playing his modeling amp, and you had him plug into this, they'd go, yes. I mean, they'd know it didn't have all the crazy effects, but you could see why the amp is so important. You change the way you play, it changes the way you sound. That's something that people lose track of when you get an amp with about 100 knobs. You know, it doesn't change the way, you can't change that sound. It's like classic rock with the phaser, you know, or the chorus or whatever, and that's all it's gonna sound like no matter what you do. But this, anybody plug into this, they'll sound completely different than the next guy.
Awesome.
And that's why we made this little video.
Thank you, Skip.
You bet.